Imagine waking up and realizing the President of the United States is publicly threatening to dismantle the Federal Reserve. Not behind closed doors, not with subtle policy tweaks, but on live TV with millions watching. And that president? Donald J. Trump back on the campaign trail in 2025, promising to take back control of the U.S. economy from what he calls an unaccountable elite. This isn't just political theater. It's a showdown for economic power, and the consequences could reshape the global financial system.
For decades, the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, has operated independently from the White House. Its job? Stabilize inflation, manage interest rates, and keep the economy humming. Presidents come and go, but the Fed remains. Now, in the middle of a high-stakes election year, that independence is under attack. Trump is calling out Jerome Powell by name. He's vowing to overhaul the Fed if he returns to office. And millions of Americans are asking the same question. Who really controls our economy?
Let's break it down. The Federal Reserve isn't a political institution. It doesn't answer to voters or presidents. Its decisions affect your mortgage rates, your job prospects, and your savings account. But it operates in the shadows of democracy. That's by design. Central banks are supposed to be immune to political pressure. But Trump, never one to play by the rules, sees the Fed as a roadblock, one that kept raising interest rates during his presidency, even as he pushed for growth. In his view, the Fed isn't neutral. It's hostile. In 2025, with inflation cooling but the economy still fragile, Trump has reignited his war against the Fed. On Truth Social, he accused the central bank of being corrupt, globalist, and out of touch. At rallies, he tells crowds that the Fed stole your savings and crushed the American dream. And behind the scenes, conservative think tanks are drawing up plans to strip the Fed of its autonomy altogether. The idea? Put interest rate decisions back in the hands of elected officials. In other words, under presidential control.
This isn't a new feud. Back in 2018 and 2019, Trump repeatedly criticized the Fed for raising interest rates too quickly. He even floated the idea of firing Powell, something no president has ever done. When COVID-19 hit and the Fed slashed rates to zero, the tension cooled. But now, with inflation having spiked in 2022 to 2023 and the Fed aggressively raising rates to cool the economy, Trump blames them for slowing down recovery. But why does this matter to you? Because if the president gains influence over the Fed, it changes everything. Interest rates could become a campaign tool. Economic decisions could swing wildly with each new administration. Markets could lose confidence in U.S. monetary policy. Investors around the world are already watching closely.
In the past 30 days, Wall Street has shown signs of anxiety. Bond yields have jumped. Gold prices are rising. The dollar has dipped slightly against foreign currencies. And in the crypto world, Bitcoin surged after Trump hinted at embracing decentralized currencies as a check on central banks. Economic uncertainty is turning into political theater, and every American has skin in the game. Even some conservatives are uneasy. Traditionally, Republicans have supported a strong, independent Fed, but Trump has reshaped the party and conversation. His base doesn't trust the Fed. They see it as part of the deep state, a faceless institution with too much control and no accountability. At campaign stops in Ohio, Arizona, and Georgia, you'll hear chants like, "End the Fed," echoing alongside, "Build the wall." But here's the catch. The Federal Reserve isn't just one man. It's a system, 12 regional banks, a board of governors, and thousands of economists and analysts. Changing it isn't simple. Trump can't just fire Jerome Powell and be done. He'd need Congress to rewrite the laws that protect Fed independence. But if Republicans sweep the House and Senate in 2025, that might actually be on the table. Those are already being drafted quietly, but with real momentum. Now, imagine this scenario. Trump wins. He appoints new Fed governors loyal to his agenda. He pressures Powell to resign. He installs allies who push for lower rates, looser monetary policy, and more political control. The stock market might love it at first. Cheap money, more growth. But inflation? It could come roaring back. And with it, the risk of a full-blown economic crisis.
The world isn't standing still. Global investors rely on U.S. economic stability. If the Fed becomes a political tool, trust in the dollar could erode. Foreign central banks might diversify away from U.S. assets. BRICS nations are already pushing for de-dollarization. If America's central bank loses credibility, it doesn't just affect Washington, it affects trade deals, foreign investment, and even national security. Meanwhile, China is observing closely. If Trump weakens the Fed, it gives Beijing an opportunity to pitch the yuan as a more stable global alternative. And in Europe, leaders are voicing concern. Germany's finance minister warned that politicizing the Fed would damage global economic balance. In short, Trump's feud with the Fed could shift the financial center of gravity worldwide. So what does this mean for you, sitting at home? If Trump takes control of the Fed and pushes for ultra-low interest rates, inflation could eat away at your savings. But if the Fed resists and the political fight escalates, we could see a recession. Triggered by uncertainty, your credit card rates, your mortgage, your 401k, your job. They're all tied to what happens next. This isn't just a political battle. It's a battle for economic power, and you're caught in the middle. Asterisk now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Legal scholars are divided. Some say Trump can't fire the Fed chair without cause. Others argue that the law is vague, that Trump might try anyway, forcing a Supreme Court showdown. If that happens, the consequences go far beyond interest rates. It would be a constitutional crisis. Executive power versus institutional independence. It could redefine the presidency itself. And don't forget, 2025 is an election year. Every move Trump makes is calculated for impact. Targeting the Fed energizes his base. It frames him as the outsider, the disruptor, the man taking on the elites. And love him or hate him, he's making it a national issue.
So the question remains, who should control America's economy? An independent institution with expertise and long-term thinking? Or an elected leader who answers directly to the people, but may be driven by short-term politics? There are no easy answers, only high stakes. Because once you politicize the Fed, you can't go back. And the decisions made in the next 12 months could shape the next decade of your life.
This is one of the most important economic battles of our time, and it's happening right now in real time. If you want to stay informed, if you want to understand the forces shaping your future, subscribe now. Hit the like button if you believe economic power should be transparent. And comment below. Should the president have the power to control the Fed? I want to hear your take. And if you want to know how BRICS is challenging the US dollar at the same time, watch this next video on your screen. It connects directly to everything we've just discussed. Because the world economy isn't just about numbers, it's about power. And the fight for that power, it's just getting started.